Hello, my friends, and welcome. This is Joel Vardy with Agility CMS. This is your Lunch and Learn. It's our intro to Plenum UI. I'm going to take you on a tour of not only Plenum itself and give you a demo of some of the things that are going on in there and show you sort of old and new, but also I have some members of the team today that I'd like you to meet and just talk with them a little bit and just work through a little bit of the process as well for how we design the system and how we've been building the system out. And through all of this, we've got tons of customers on board, tons of people in this session. This is probably one of our most well-attended already sessions ever. Happy to take any of your questions through the chat. If we run out of time or if you have a question that we don't get to, please join our Slack community, or you can always, as a customer, you can always hit us up on support if you actually have a problem, support@agilitysms.com. But the Slack channel is a great spot outside of these webinars to actually connect with us and join part of that community. And our team is always sort of on there. I know I spend way too much time on the Slack channel, talking with folks and answering questions and just generally having a good time. Yeah, let's get started. The first person I want to bring on stage with me is David, who leads our design team. David, if you could come up on stage and let's have a little chat and have you meet some of our folks.
Thank you all. Hey guys, I'm excited to introduce our new UI, and I wanted to let you know that the Plenum UI library is built using atomic design principles. And essentially, it's a handcrafted elements that allows you to build more complex UI components and pages.
So yeah, just talking about the atomic system. So Plenum UI is actually the design system. It's not even the code name. We're kind of been using it as the code name for the new UI, but Plenum Design is actually the design system that you designed in Figma, built of all these atomic elements, correct?
Correct, absolutely.
Awesome. So yeah, what's cool about that is that our customers and partners and developers can use that design system. There's actually a storybook library, which will show that you can use to build apps, which we'll have way more to talk about in future sessions. So the atomic, that's really cool.
Yeah, this methodology makes the user interface more findable and accessible. So it allows us to use reusable components that the user already familiar with, which makes the experience smoother. And so each step of the design process involves user research or user testing or any type of UX research. So we listen to the user feedback.
Yeah. And you've already been, basically, we've got Olga, who's a part of our UX team, who has essentially been doing these interviews with folks. We've already done our first round of interviews, correct? With sort of basically taking folks through the new design, asking questions and getting feedback. How has that gone so far in terms of your analysis, David?
From what I've seen from user interview sessions that were recorded, and I take notes of it, users really like the new UI. And they have a better experience now, and less pain points were found. So in general, the takeaways from this research is very positive.
Yeah, I feel like we're on the right track, but I feel like we have to continue to iterate.
Absolutely. So the UX research also allows us to optimize the user experience and iterate on the things that really matter most to our users.
That's awesome. So just talking to folks in general, if you've been invited to, and if you were part of that research process, if you were one of the interviewees, thank you so much for doing that. Your feedback is really, really valuable. But also thank you for joining today. Please provide any feedback to us. You can either email us, send it to us on Slack. You can put it right there in the chat. We want to hear from you. And if you want to volunteer to be part of that feedback, definitely shoot us an email, support@agilitysms.com, and we'll hopefully get you as we'll be doing multiple rounds, probably on a monthly basis, of that UX testing. Awesome. David, why don't you just take us through a few of your, I just grabbed some, you sent me some screenshots yesterday of some of the designs. Why don't you just take me through your process? You spend a lot of time like just kind of thinking and being really kind of cerebral about your approach. So I want to just have you just talk a little bit about your designs for some of the stuff that you've worked on here.
So when we say we try to improve the user experience or user flows on each stage of interaction with the new UI, we mean improving even the smallest things the user do. For example, reordering stuff. So one of the new things that we introduced in Pages, for example, is the activity feed and the page builder, which consists of modules. So this is a new UI that we introduced lately.
Right, and I'll be able to demo this live later. So this is a screenshot from Figma, but you'll be able to see, we put all these kind of sideways, so you wouldn't think they're screenshots, but they look almost exactly the same as what we've done. So pretty exciting stuff. Let's talk about this one.
Yeah, this is part of our assets, and this is a new element, newly designed element called image editor, where you can, the user will be able to manipulate the image size, crop it, improve quality or reduce the quality to reduce the size, and other aspects of image editing.
Yeah, now this is really interesting too, because we got feedback on this one specifically, and I'm going to take you through the asset section later. And there was a lot of feedback. So I'm really interested to hear what the folks in the chat have to say about the asset section, and because it's probably gone through more redesign than any other section so far. So a lot to see there. Now this is one that I haven't even we haven't seen because it hasn't been released yet. So this is one that's kind of exciting to talk about. Why don't you go through this one, David?
Yeah, this is a new landing page to every section of the application that not just shows you the useful information under the walkthrough videos or quick start roadmap, but also brings you some value in terms of showing some metrics about your content.
Right.
Yeah, and the latest.
So this, yeah. So this specifically is the landing page that will be the landing page of the new modeling section. And what was exciting about this is there's going to be a walkthrough video and quick start similar to what's on the main home screen, but this will be specifically to content modeling. So one of the things that we wanted to do was actually help people learn about the system and make it more intuitive, both from a usability, but also an educational standpoint. And content modeling is one of the biggest things that we kind of teach here at Agility. So from a design perspective, this is kind of an exciting thing to roll out soon. And here it looks like we're kind of diving into the modeling section.
Yeah, this is the most exciting for me personally, because drag and drop is the easiest way to build models. And this is a new model editing interface where the user will be able just to grab any of the fields on the right side panel and drag it into the model and edit any properties. So
right.
This makes the experience much smoother and faster.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting about this one, from my point of view, is, and it kind of takes us to one of the design sort of concepts that we've been talking about, is limiting the number of sort of stacked pop-ups and flyovers. In the current modeling system, there's to basically edit a field, there's at least 2 pop-ups or slide outs that you would have to sort of initiate. Whereas this one, there's no slide out, no pop-up at all. Was that sort of part of the goal here?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. We'll be able to drag fields basically into the model from the side panel and very quickly build out your content model, move things around really easily. So excited to release that very, very soon. Now this is a screen that I love. Talk me through this one, David.
Yeah, this is a new component also that allows comparison of different versions against the latest version of a piece of content or content item. That allows you to see the version number, the date it was modified, the user who modified this last time, and the status. Also, you can see side-by-side comparison of each piece of content item or each field where you can compare, and if the user decides to revert it, there's a button right on the top that allows you to revert to the latest to the version and override the current one.
Yeah, this is just a beautiful thing. First of all, it's a gorgeous design, and it's a really nice sort of, as a developer myself, like version diff is a huge sort of thing, and we wanted to bring that to our users. And your vision of it is really a beautiful thing. So this is a screenshot of the design. And this is actually going to be released next week. Probably one of the most sort of asked for features that I was excited to bring, into the new UI. So David, thanks for talking us through the designs. That's awesome. That's great. What I want to talk about now, just kind of blasting forward, is all the stuff that's coming out next week. There's already been a bunch of stuff released, which I'm going to actually demo. But what I want to do is bring on Dakota, who's just joined our engineering team, one of the most recent additions to the team, who's been working like crazy. And I wanted to have a chance for you folks to meet him as we talk through some of the stuff that's coming out next week really briefly before we get into the demo, showing the actual, what's already been used or been rolled out. So here is a screenshot of from our developers from our development system of the new content modeling. So you can see, you can actually drag fields in from the right panel there, drag them in, and then use drag and drop, and then the actual field editing is right in line. So really sweet, sort of more streamlined use of content modeling to more quickly build and edit your content models that are there. So here's the link builder, and here's the link content builder. So I'm not going to talk too much about this because it is going to be released and we'll have a lot more to say about it now. But first I want to say, hey, welcome Dakota. It's great to have you with us.
Hey, glad to be here.
This is awesome. So this is your first Agility webinar.
Yes, yeah. That's
awesome. So you've joined the team fairly recently and you've been coding like crazy. Just tell us a little bit about what that experience has been like. I mean, I think that you're, to me, you're kind of like a rock star. You're doing all this stuff, you're coding, it's a brand new system. And you're building stuff, you're building components from scratch, one about that we're going to look at soon. What's that experience been like?
It's been honestly a really great experience. I'm loving being a product developer and making that transition from, sort of being more on contract. So this has been nice to sort of see the product grow.
Yeah, so your previous experience was mostly using like React to build stuff for, specifically for customers, more like a consultative type thing, which was my background initially before I got into product development as well. But now you're into product development, and it's one of the things that we talked about. I remember when we first talked, I said, "Are you a product person or a project person?" And you immediately said product. You want to see it through to completion. And one of the first things that you've been working on is the what we just saw the design from, and this is the product. I'm not sure what we're going to call it. Is I guess content compare or the Delta tool, something like that. Talk us through how your process has been with this.
Yeah, so this has been a lot of fun to work on. Obviously, having a great design from David to sort of implement in the first place is great. And it's kind of exciting to me as well. Like you said, as a developer, it's really nice to be able to see that, sort of diff across all the versions. So yeah, we'll be able to track changes to fields like the HTML field, as you see there, and sort of seeing the difference in your images and attachments and seeing when a change was made and by who. Yeah. Should be a pretty powerful little tool.
Yeah. Now, one of the decisions we'll talk through here just really quickly is the block content field. This is an HTML field. We actually did a version of this that was showing like a WYSIWYG diff, but that didn't tell you if there was any like stylistic changes that were on the actual HTML code. And so we decided to actually show the HTML code that was in there and show the diff between that. So that's what the version. This is going to roll out next week. I think there's another screenshot here as well. Showing a file attachment, some file attachment difference, just to like kind of you scroll down on this and screenshot it again. So if there's a ton of fields with a ton of content, you'll be able to see all the differences.
Yeah, and you'll be able to see which one you're looking at and still be able to revert and have that sort of be fixed as you scroll.
Brilliant. Yeah, this is probably one of the most anticipated things that folks have asked for and talked about. So I'm really excited to bring it live. This is going to be rolling out, I believe, next Tuesday. So it'll be available. So let's actually now, thanks Dakota, it's been awesome chatting with you, and it's great to have you, be able to sort of introduce the feature that you've been working on. Really exciting for me to have you here. So
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's actually jump now into, let's see if I can get out of PowerPoint here and actually jump into the actual, into Agility itself and start looking at how do you get into the new UI and how do you work with it, and what are some of the sort of design concepts that we implemented and how does that work? So let's jump in. So I'm actually in the content manager here. This is my personal website, joelvardy.com, which is not an exciting website. Don't go there because it's not very fun, but I'm going to use that as an example. Here we go. So if you want to try anything out on any screen within Agility, simply click on the Try the New Look button and click on Get Started. that will take you to the same screen. So we've kept the same URL structure in the new UI, okay? And if that screen hasn't been implemented yet, it'll give you a message, it hasn't been implemented yet, it's coming soon. The things that have been implemented are pretty much everything in the home, content, pages, and assets section. What's coming next week is the modeling section, or most of the modeling section. And then after that will be reports and settings in December. Our goal is to have feature parity, sort of 99% feature parity by the end of the year. So that's what we're working towards, and taking feedback and iterating while we're doing that. We've actually done 4 releases of this. We're on sort of a 2-week sprint schedule that they're kind of continually releasing to production. So we do that all the time. What's really interesting here is that there is only ever going to be one URL for the new UI. If you're in Europe, or if you're in Australia, or if you're in Canada, you'll see that your URL could be manager-ca or manager-eu, depending on where you are. There is only one URL for this, and it will talk to the different backend country based on where you are. So this front-end app is actually hosted on a CDN. It's actually hosted in Vercel. That's where we're rolling it out. Love Vercel, it's a great tool. Vercel and Netlify are two of the hosting platforms that we use internally. Just great tools, great partners. Our backend is in Azure, but this front end is all on Vercel. Okay, so just talking through some of the stuff that you see, very, very similar. You know, obviously the navigation's the same. Our organization and instance picker is now combined. You can see I've got pretty much access to like every customer that we have, so you can very quickly see what organizations you have and switch between those instances very quickly. The search is also very similar as well, although the search now also searches your asset section as well, and I'll demo that in a little bit. But for instance, if I was, I know I have the word book in here, so you can see we now show, you know, your content versus the all view. I don't know if I have any other, like maybe there's some stuff from Unsplash here. Probably have some. Yeah, there we go. So if you have assets there, you can actually search your assets as well. So pretty nice stuff that's coming in the search. We will be adding more stuff into the search, be able to search your models and the settings as well. So if you want to, one of the things is like if you're trying to find where a certain setting is, it should be easier to do that. So we will have more stuff coming in the search in the future. All right. One of the things you'll notice too is that the system is a lot more accessible. So you should be able to, I'm just using my keyboard now, use the keyboard to pretty much do everything on here. Which is just a lot nicer to work with. So all of these pop-ups capture your focus, things like that. So it should make it a lot easier for folks to work with from an accessibility point of view as well. Just taking you through the rest of the system here. We've got, this is our notifications area and notifications and tasks area. So it's the alerts panel. The notifications are basically everything that used to show up and it would pop up like down below here in the old system is going to now come up here. This is something we're going to be expanding on a lot in the future, as well as we add more collaboration features. You can also see your list of tasks in here. See, this is the exact same task management as we had before, but there, again, we are also expanding at the task management. Way more stuff is coming there, but this all pretty much acts as it did before. The help is gone from here. We just had too many people having trouble with stuff kind of over this help being over the top of everything. So we've moved help up to here. It's the exact same help. Again, it's something we'll be expanding on even more, but this is where your live chat goes. So Nikita and the rest of her support team is on our chat, or you can leave us a message to support. Please do that. Please use the live chat. Some folks might not even know that we have live chat, but this is always available, and it goes. We're currently using Zendesk for our chat. Your chat, when you do this here, goes into our support system, so we keep track of it. So even if you have a chat that's sometimes like a longer conversation, please go start that conversation here or leave us a message, and that'll create a ticket in our system. So giving our customers a voice is our #1 priority and purpose here at Agility. Then you have the profile section, which is the same but different. So you can obviously change all your profile stuff. You can change your time zone, which is important, but now you can actually change the UI language of this entire system. And the first 2 languages we've implemented are French, Français, and Espanol, which I don't have a good accent. So French and Spanish. So we've used machine learning to do these initial translations. So I'm happy to take any feedback from any folks who are French or Spanish first language. But basically, once you change that, the entire system will now reload, and you will see all the labels that we've got translated. There's a few things that haven't been translated yet, but everything is basically translated into French for you. That doesn't change the content, the language that you're actually viewing here. So if I have English and French content, those are called locales, and they will not change. So this, all we've done with this is change the labels that are in Agility itself. All right. I find myself re-explaining that often. So that's another thing that we're going to be spending more time on, as well as we, basically use humans to sort of do the rest of that. But we were able to translate this very, very quickly using machine learning. And if there are different languages that are important to you or your customers, if you're a partner that's on there or that's watching this, if you would like to have more languages, please let us know. We took feedback from some of our customers in Quebec, as well as folks that are in Latin America, that this was important to. So here we go. So that's the sort of the frame, which is basically available everywhere. There's also a feedback button, so please send us feedback. This goes directly into our Jira task management. So our product engineering team, we've already gotten a bunch of feedback, and we've been trying to respond to every single piece of feedback because it's the most important part of what we do. So please get in here, give us some feedback, let us know how you think. Most people only give us feedback when there's something that they're not too sure about and they don't like. But for those few of you who send us happy faces saying, hey, I like what you're doing, but it could be this, that makes a big difference to our team. So even if you have a feedback, it's like, hey, this looks nice, or I like the purple, that would be really useful because it just gives us a smile, and smiles are good. You can always jump back to what we're calling the classic version at any time. So just click on here, access to classic UI. If there's something that doesn't work that you need to switch back to the classic UI for, please let us know, because everybody's content model is different. So please go ahead and do that. If you need to switch back and use something, then the classic UI will be available. What we're saying is, as long as you need it, probably about 6 months to maybe even a year, because there's some folks that have like really, really old systems that are doing a lot of things that we don't do it that way anymore, that we're hoping folks will migrate away, or somewhat change how they do things, or we can adapt this system to automatically work how they used to work before. I know that's a really kind of cryptic way of saying we're going to make it work, but we want to sort of bring folks on to the new design and new way of doing things for a lot of this stuff. On the dashboard itself, you'll notice that even though you can still get through the walkthrough and the quick start guide, so the quick start guide is the same. It used to occupy essentially the main sort of screen. Now it's a pop-up, so you can always get to quick start guide and learn about content, pages, and assets, and how to go through there. So I highly recommend you doing that. Lots of videos, lots of great content. Some of this content links over into our help system, so they'll actually do that for some of these things for accessing. You can click learn more and jump into the documentation. So we want to have, make it easier to actually learn how to use Agility from Agility as well. All right. If you're on a plan, this is my own website. So since I got an in with the team at Agility, I don't have to actually pay for Agility. So for my own personal website. So don't tell anybody, this is not available for anyone else. So you would see your plan details here, what template you use to potentially create this thing, and then a whole bunch of other links to kind of help set up. This is very similar to what's currently on your home screen now. All right, let's jump into, actually I'm going to start with assets. Assets is the part of the system that we've probably spent the most amount of time redesigning. It was the first part that we redesigned because we had a lot of feedback from folks working with files, working with attachments. They weren't loving it. So we wanted you to love it. And one of the biggest things is making it easier to upload stuff. So let's just make an upload folder here, and let's just go drag some stuff in. So when I drag a file in now, before it uploads, I get to see what the file name is and a quick preview of it. So this is like some of the screenshots that I was showing earlier, and I can see how big it is. So before you upload now, you get a lot of feedback. If I have a zip file, it will actually allow me to leave it as a zip file, or I can extract it right here, and it will extract it and show me what's in that zip file. So this was really, really important to us to make it just give a better upload experience and make it easier to kind of work with that, to kind of get stuff into your assets area and have the ability to just kind of see how far this is going. And now we've got it all uploaded, we're done, and they're all in here. What's really cool as well is this system works with how we're loading data. Is everything is like auto refreshed. So if I switch tabs and come back, and someone else has added more stuff into the system, it will automatically show up. And that's sort of across the board. We want to make sure that your data is always up to date. A lot of people have multiple tabs open with Agility, or they'll be working on a screen and be part of a team, and they'll come back, and if you didn't know to click refresh, you might not know that something's there. Everything is now automatically updated. Let's actually just show that. So let's open up the classic UI. Let's go ahead and drag a file into this screen. Let's just do, that'll be some other screenshot, right? I'll do it here. And now when I switch back to here, it will automatically show me that file. Okay, I didn't have to do anything. So this is something you should expect as a user from everywhere within Agility now. Okay, so it's a completely redesigned data loading mechanism. It's the same data in the back end, but it's just everything is more up to date and faster to work with. Right now, one of the things in the user experience and the UX feedback that we had was that we got rid of this sidebar, and some of you folks want it back. So we're looking at bringing back the sidebar here. Whereas right now, if you want to actually edit an image, you click on the editor here. I thought this was nicer because it actually allows you to see all the information about this thing. You can rename it quickly, and you can resize and work with that image, crop it and resize it, that sort of stuff really, really easily. But it seems that the sidebar was a kind of a nicer way because you didn't have to lose your focus. So we want to get the best of both worlds there. We're listening to our users. That's the most important thing, I think, is to understand, like, we're listening to you folks, and we want you to provide feedback, right? You can still show multiple views of this. So we've got the thumbnail view, which is pretty nice. Thumbnails are a little bigger, but you've also got the list view that you can switch to as well. And then you can perform any actions in here. And this is the kind of sort of standard grid setup that you can expect in the rest of the system as well, right? If you want to see your recycle bin, that's over here. So I can look at all the items that have been deleted, right? And you can purge those and empty the trash, or you can restore them, right? So similar functionality, but completely new design, right? Let's jump into the content section. All right, so content, you've got a new dashboard that shows you a graph of the content by status. So I can see that 70% of my stuff has been published, but 29% has not been, and I've been unpublishing, a little bit. So not a ton of content in the site, but there's a little bit. And any latest changes that were changed in the last, I think, I haven't been actually that active on here on my personal site. Are we ever active enough on our personal sites and blogs? But anything that's changed, I think in the last 2 weeks will show up here. Let's go ahead and just actually make a quick change to something. Here we go. And that will now show up on the home screen itself if I close out of here. All right, there's my latest change. So any latest changes will show up in this report here that are fairly recent. Okay. Now, on this screen, we've got a lot of the same stuff. You have the ability to change languages. So if I switch to French, for instance, it changes my URL up here and then reloads everything that I'm seeing in the current view, okay? We can search this list. Some folks have tons and tons of content. These are essentially content containers, so lists and single items. This allows you to quickly search through that if you have them, all right? Let's actually jump into, and you can add new folders in here. So if I wanted to add a folder and put stuff under the blog folder, I could go ahead and do that. And then when I edit these now, I can choose which folder they go into. So let's actually jump into one of these lists and just walk through that a little bit. You'll see that we've kind of standardized on how this flow kind of works. So you've got this left panel here, which is resizable, which is really nice. Sometimes you have a huge screen and you want to have, if you've got long stuff in here, you don't want to truncate it, you can resize that. You can always collapse this left panel as well. So if you're on a smaller screen and you want to show more content, you can collapse this left panel, and we have the right panel as well, which I can also collapse. So if you want to give more, basically change how you use the real estate, that's up to you, right? You can always jump back to the home screen or to the dashboard by clicking home, all right? In the grid itself, there's a new filters panel, and if you want to show your recycle bin, you click on show deleted. That will get you to the recycle bin, and you have the same search tools as before, and we can move stuff up and down similar, okay? We are also iterating quite quickly on this panel, and so I'd love to hear any feedback that you have. People spend most of their time in this panel. I will say right now, you can actually change, so everyone can change the columns that they are seeing that are in here. You can go ahead and do that. You can also resize these columns. It doesn't remember your resizing, but it does remember what columns you're showing. So for instance, if I wanted to, move the title field and have, hit here, and I have the state after that, And maybe I have, if I'm using like scheduling and I don't care about modified or whatever, but I do care about release and pull date, I can go ahead and do that. So you can quickly change these columns. It will remember these columns for you personally in this browser. So we're storing this in browser state. So before, only an admin could actually change what columns are viewable, but we found that that wasn't that useful for folks. So much more useful to have each user be able to say what they want their columns to be, all right? So it remembers that. It doesn't remember how your column sizes are. We are going to add that. We do make the first column sticky. I found that when I was working with some customers and looking at their screens, they were often having huge long lists of columns, and then if you scrolled way over, you don't even know, you don't have the title anymore of like the main piece of content. So we've made this first column sticky. So hopefully that's something you like. Also, we're now using a page system as opposed to the infinite scroll. In some of the interviews, just watching people infinitely scroll through stuff continually wasn't that useful. So we wanted to make the filtering a little easier and make it easier to kind of get to your stuff. All right. Happy to hear feedback on all that. The right panel is now standardized. So you see the activity feed. You'll see this, which is like the properties icon. So the properties for this screen, and then a tool for any extra settings. So in this case, it's the developer settings. So if I wanted to move this under the blog, I could go ahead and do that. Probably want to do that for my blog post as well. So let's just let Joel, clean up some of his content here. All right. So you can pretty quickly move stuff around and work with stuff, and you can see there's my alerts sort of telling me what I've done, and I can kind of work with those as well. One of the things that I now hate about the system is that it shows them over top of these actions. So our alerts are going to move. It's another piece of feedback that we took, is the alerts are going to move to sort of fly in the bottom, and then they'll be up here to see later. Okay. You can change the sort. You can do all the same stuff that you could do before, and it's in kind of the same spot. But you'll notice there's no more settings sort of expandable. There's no more settings dialog. So we've also standardized on this context menu for some of these actions. But the primary actions are like big luxury type buttons here that are easy to click. So preview, publish, or any whatever workflow action you have access to will be up here as a more of a primary item. And then being able to create new items is the top action up here. All right. So this should be like a standard for everything. Let's jump into an actual content item now. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat as well. If any of you folks have any kind of like feedback or questions, happy to take those questions. Jumping into a content item, it should look very familiar to what you saw from the list view. So we've got the right panel as well with the activity feed and the properties for an item, as well as the ability to jump to the content model. I will say this is one of the things not yet been implemented. That is coming next week. Quickly jump back. One of the things that's somewhat different now is how we handle the breadcrumb, okay? Previously, and I'm really interested on feedback on this, because we've moved to a horizontal breadcrumb up here to make it sort of a little more clear on how to jump back. It's the exact same functionality. So I can always, very quickly jump back around. It's still really fast to work with. However, if I let's do this. Let's just open the exact same thing in the classic UI. You can see previously we had this sort of vertical stack that showed things. And so this is a slightly different way of organizing it. I think it's easier to read, but I'm interested to hear, from folks how they like this or don't like this breadcrumb. It's up to you to tell us. All right, title area, very similar. Everything tells me the state. Thanks, Karine. Appreciate that. David will like that comment as well. Primary actions are always save, preview, and whatever workflow you have access to. So this is, again, similar to what we saw on the content list. All right, so we're seeing all of the content fields here. I wanted to show this. So we do have some custom fields that were built in a previous methodology that have not been upgraded yet. So every custom field that was built with a custom app, those will come through. So like when I was using our Cloudinary app, or there's a Google Translate one out there. There's a whole bunch of those, but there's a lot of folks that are using, because they were in our starter package, like the URL slug field, and I think we had a markdown field and maybe a couple others. Those have not been upgraded yet. We will be providing an automatic upgrade path for those as best we can. There may be some functionality that the folks have done that's like doing stuff that we didn't expect that we'll have to work with on a one-by-one basis. But for most folks, we should be able to upgrade these eventually. So that is coming, right? just talking through a few more of these things. A lot of the fields are very similar. You know, date field, basic. We're using now the native date picker. We may switch to a non-native date picker, but for now we're using the native date time picker that's built into everybody's browser, mostly because it's really, really accessible. Here's our linked content. So this is the linked content dropdown. This one is a lot different too, because now if I had like 10,000 blog categories to choose from, I can very quickly search for them. So as opposed to showing just a list of everything, you now have the ability to search that list and infinitely scroll it if there are lots. So that's really nice. I can still get to the individual item itself. And you can see now when I jump into linked content, it still just jumps me into, you know, along the breadcrumb. And you'll notice I don't lose my changes. So if I make a bunch of changes to here and jump into something, I'm not going to lose those changes. In fact, we don't even prompt you anymore to lose those changes. I'm anxious to hear what you think about that. We actually store your changes in local storage until you're ready to save. So the save button doesn't light up until I've made a change, so that I can actually jump around, do things, come back to it, you know, however I get back to it, and my changes are still there, and then I can save them whenever I'm ready, or I can revert these. And I do believe we've got this revert button is going to be more prominent, but you can just jump back and revert those changes to what they were before, and that will basically make it go away. So take it, you know, back to the last version. Another interesting thing is if someone else changes this thing, if I make a change, so let's change some stuff, and someone else goes ahead and changes this as well. So for instance, if they're on the exact same thing, or if I changed it on another tab, which I'm about to do, and save it, this is what will happen. So let's go and change this, make it, I'll just take away that. I'll save it. And now, because of, remember I talked about earlier, everything is going to automatically refresh. So if I come back to here, I'm going to now get a notification to say, hey, this item's been updated on the server by me on another tab, right? So I can revert my changes and take that and basically take the other person's changes, or because agility is a sort of like a last one wins kind of thing, I don't have to lose my changes. I can just go ahead and save it. I can say, oh, you know what? I don't like that change. I didn't care about that one. I could actually look at it over here as well because I can see it, but I can just save over top of it if I wanted to. Okay. So now we've got the next version that's available that will show up, version 5. Okay. Going through the rest of the system, here's the asset sort of picker. It's very similar to the asset section that you saw before. Okay, so it literally just is a minified version of that asset section that's focused on, you know, adding items. So that's this one. I can also manually upload onto here as well. So a lot of the same functionality, but it just looks a lot nicer than it did before. Okay, so nice uploader. Very quickly, you know, I can work with this stuff. Same thing as what you kind of expected. The rich text editor, again, also the same. It is almost exactly the same in terms of code as the current rich text editor. One of the things that we will be doing is providing a way for you to swap this out and use an app if you want to use your own rich text editor or something different that's completely custom with your own actions and things like that. So that's just the idea of being able to customize the experience is something that we want to bring more front and center into agility, and hopefully that's something that you folks are, you know, in agreement. That's an important thing. What happens if I refresh the page F5? Yeah, I think that if I've made some changes here, let's just go and get rid of those changes, and I just F5 this page, show that here. I will not lose my changes. They're still here, so they're in local storage. Even if you like go away and come back, so if I close this tab. Actually, I haven't tested this, but I believe it should work. Go away and come back. I'll still, no, I don't have them. So you have to, it is a session-based thing, all right? Okay, is there any indicator that there's unsaved content? Yeah, right there. So the save button lights up if I've made any changes. That's the only indicator. Maybe we should make it less subtle. Wanted it to be subtle, but maybe it's too subtle. It's a brand new thing, so we were hoping it would just kind of work with people's flow, but if we need to be a little bit more in the face about changes or you know, have some sort of prompt when you navigate away, that's something that we can add in. We wanted it to be more of a smooth flow working with content. All right. Now, currently, I can go in and jump and see the other versions. Okay, I can't do a delta yet, so that is the one that's coming. I can't wait for this. All right. All right, so here we go. That's the content area. happy to take any questions on there, but I'm just going to keep on flying through this whole stuff. Here we go. Thanks, Laura, for the feedback. I agree. It is very subtle, and I do think folks already have missed it. So that's one of the things that I think we'll probably look at with our UX testing. Let's jump into the pages section, okay? We wanted to basically do everything smoother and better, okay? Everything that Pages currently does, and this is kind of the general thing, we're reproducing the same functionality with a new design before we start adding a whole bunch of new functionality into the system, okay? So here we go. Here's a page. It's got a couple of modules on it. I'm not going to sort of explain how pages work, but these are not representing HTML pages. These are essentially page objects in a hierarchical tree system. This is essentially what Agility page management is. So really, really cool stuff. Again, same kind of layout, has the same kind of breadcrumb structure, use same kind of right panel. Now I've got my activity feed. I've got the properties for this page, which is, there's quite a few properties on a page. I can always see the live URL. This is something you had to actually like go on a menu before to find that. So if I want to just copy the live URL anywhere to go and sort of see what my system looks like, I can very quickly go ahead and do that, right? But I can also preview it very quickly as well to get into preview mode for the system. And I highly recommend for any of you folks that are building systems, if you don't have preview implemented, think about it. Please implement preview. It's one of the most important things for your users. And if you're in a system that doesn't have preview implemented, please let us know, because I believe that every Agility system should work with preview properly. Sometimes it's hard to do it because not all systems are like page-based, but it's always nice to have some kind of preview. Then you have the SEO tab here as well. So SEO is a top-level citizen in Agility. And happy to take feedback about how we could do SEO better as well. Any feedback that you have, we really, really want to hear it. All we care about is making a better product for our users. So this is why this is so exciting for me to show this, but also exciting for me to get, for me and the rest of the team to get feedback on Agility. Let's look at the difference between adding a module, because it's probably the biggest difference. So now when I add a module, there's no pop-up. I see a list of my modules here. I can search for them really quick. So if I know I want to put like a heading in, I can do that, but I don't have to search if I don't want to, right? So but what's nice is now I can just drag this in and put it wherever I want to. So I don't have to click and put it in the bottom. And if I want to quickly build my page, it doesn't automatically open the module that you just added, which it did before. So if I know I want to put, a heading, maybe a featured post, maybe I want to do a rich text area in the middle, I can just go ahead and set that all up. And then I can go in and, type out my stuff. Is there support for OG tags in the SEO settings? No, OG tags are not part of the SEO settings. It probably should be, so that I could say what's the open graph image. And I think that's one of the features that we've got in our backlog, is to be able to, in the SEO settings for pages and content, to be able to have open graph tags in there. I think it would be useful to maybe have like an extensible set of tags that are there. Right now, if you want to do open graph stuff, you can do it manually in the additional header markup, which is a super pain. But what a lot of folks do is they actually put that and essentially, as a developer, delineate one of the fields of their content, like a featured image, and just render this with an OG image in your in the markup on the front end. But I think it would be super useful to have that in the SEO settings somewhere, to be able to say, hey, use this field as that automatically, and have that come out for you in your data. But the long and short of it is, this content that comes out, you as a developer can work with it however you want, but it's nicer to make it sort of front and center so the user knows how that's coming through. So that's really good feedback, Karine. Does the preview work for 2 locales of the same sitemap without having to change the URL manually? Yeah, the way this works, the way preview works, it might be hard to see. When I click preview, it actually sends the language code in the URL for me. And then we've got us in the Next.js starter that this is using, it actually redirects back. And so when you're handling preview as a developer, you just need to interpret that query string. So we send a bunch of query strings that tell you it also tells you what channel, because I can have multiple sitemaps in here. So it can tell you what sitemap, what language they're on, and what page they're on. And then it's up to the UI to kind of handle that. So yes, multiple languages and locales are handled in there. Again, it just has to be implemented properly in your system, all right? So that's pages. As we get into sort of more complex stuff, you can see that as I've got a featured post here, I can, link this up and edit that post. And now we've got, as the link content increases, we have the same sort of breadcrumb. And so I could be editing the same content. It seems like I'm in the pages section, but it's still content, and that's all fine. All right. I'm going to go ahead and save that on there. All right. So we've got this all set up. I don't want the rich text area. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this. So, just a little faster to work with things. I find it's a little speedier, a little easier, a little more intuitive. You'll notice on the tree, we don't say as much about, we have these like really complex icons before that are showing like there's a little check mark in there that you can almost barely see. We wanted to make that a lot easier. This is a little green mark only if this page has ever been published or is published now. So essentially, even if I've made a change to this page, it's actually staging, it's still live on the website. So let's show it with a green dot. That was the idea there. So I can very quickly see that the books page has never been published. It's not live on the website, okay? And if you have a page that hasn't been translated, we show it with this little X mark, and you can see we actually haven't finished this yet. The ability to switch between pages and actually sort of translate them. So this is a perfect set of functionality where it doesn't look like it's finished, but if I switch to the classic UI, it will take me through the functionality that I was expecting, okay? So I encourage you, use Plenum, use the new UI as much as possible, but if you do get in a situation where it doesn't seem to be working for you, then you can always switch back and do it in the classic look, all right? So that's pages. Pretty much everything is there. I don't know if there's anything that I actually missed. There is scheduling is still available. Same deal for all of that. The copy functionality, very similar to what you saw before. We're still using slide outs for a lot of stuff. One of the biggest debates that we have internally, I'll just share with you, is whether to do something in a slide out or a popover. And usually if you get into a situation where we have like a lot of vertical content to show, we've been using slide outs to do it because they're by default full vertical. And that just seems to work better. But happy to take any feedback on that. There are other areas where we're showing pop-ups. So we're using pop-ups in other areas too. Leonardo, we will have the functionality to initialize the page from another language. Absolutely, that is coming. It just hasn't been implemented yet. It actually looks like the graceful degradation didn't happen that well here. So I'm going to take the fail on this one. It's saying the page has been deleted. It hasn't been deleted. This functionality is coming. Everything that you could do in the previous version should basically work. And if it doesn't, it's either because it isn't done yet or it's a bug. So in this case, what I would do if I got to this place, feedback, I'd go a little not quite happy, can you, aren't we doing this? The translation, something like that. Maybe not the best message, but my team will get it. Actually, they just popped up on our Slack right now with some feedback. So it's like, everyone's going to jump all over that now. Okay. That's pretty much everything that's implemented so far. We're trying to follow a really robust data loading model so that what you see is always the most recent stuff, even if you're working on multiple tabs or with a team. There's a lot of functionality that's coming down the road. One of those things that's coming is a much expanded app system. So we have currently custom field apps. You've seen the demos for things like Cloudinary, for things like, there's like a Salesforce, all of those apps that are out there. There's one for HubSpot. There's, a few others. We will be building more first-party apps, but also we provided Plenum. I'm going to show you here right now. Let's just find Plenum UI as a storybook for you to use this system to build stuff that looks just like Agility. We're hoping that this is enough for you to get going and to help. It will be really interesting once folks start using this more, and hopefully you do start using this more to do that. You can actually check out, so we haven't shared this URL that often before. Here it is. Here's the storybook for the Plenum UI components. These are under development. We are working on them, but there is an NPM package already out there that has this available. So I think it's Agility/Plenum is the NPM, Agility Plenum. Really easy to find, so Plenum UI. So this is the NPM package that has all of these components that are in there. It is for React. Most folks are hopefully okay with that. We haven't provided the Figma files or anything like that. If you do think that would be useful, definitely give us that feedback. In general, I think the message here is just, hey, talk to us more. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, and what you want. That is something that we really want to hear about. So, and any questions that you have about where things are is really useful. So, that's the new UI. There's the Plenum components and the NPM package for working with it. We will be sharing tons more in coming weeks about sort of the app strategy and things like that. I will tell you, Models is rolling out next week. So on Tuesday, you'll see at the very least content models and page modules. I'm not sure about page templates because we are redesigning that because it's super ugly right now. So lots of stuff coming out in the next weeks, as well as that content delta feature, which we're really excited about, that Dakota is probably coding on right now while he's got 2 screens going. So excited to see all that stuff and excited to see the feedback from you folks. Before I sign off, I know we've got an hour, but I wanted to give a few minutes for folks to, if they had any questions that I haven't answered, to sort of re-ask those. I think I've got all the stuff, support for OG tags, 2 locales, functionality for going between French and English. We absolutely will have that. That's going to be there. Yeah, pretty much everything. Not pretty much everything that you can do with agility in the classic UI, we want you to be able to do in the new UI as well. And so if there's something that's not working for you, we want to hear about it. And with that being said, if we don't have any more questions, thanks for joining. Thanks Dakota for coming on and teaching us about what you've been working on about the content delta. Thanks David for taking us through the design. That's pretty awesome. I want to thank Harmony. Shout out to Harmony. She's the Agility CMS account here right now, so she's been our stage manager for this and helping us get through it and keeping us all organized and on track. So props to you, Harmony, for doing a great job on this, and props to you for joining. And until next time, when we should probably shout out what the next thing is. Let's go ahead and do that before I drop off. So on our agilitycms.com website, what's the next webinar? Here we go. So the next webinar is going to be looking at the new API, the management API. So we'll have Mohit from our engineering team, from the backend engineering team. He'll be joining us with this, and maybe another special guest as well. So the new management API actually hits public beta tomorrow. It's in private beta right now. So we've got some folks already in there testing it and trying it out and doing stuff. It hits public beta tomorrow. And then on the 7th of December, we'll be taking you through that. And then coming up after that, super exciting, the day after that, we have our new Next.js SDK. So if you're a developer or if you're interested in Next.js, our SDK, we just bumped it to version 13, and lots to talk about there. Providing any sessions about Plenum UI. About building apps. We absolutely will, Leonardo, to talk about, hey, how do you build an app using the Plenum UI components? Yes, indeed, that is coming. Lots more to talk about that soon. Okay, this has been great. Thanks everyone for joining. That's me signing off, and we'll see you next time very, very soon.